There it is. We're live back. We're back,
All right.
ladies and gentlemen. We're
No
back.
idea what happened there. That's
I don't
our
know
first,
either.
I guess, Mercury retrograde.
Is that what's going on with Mercury in retrograde?
It seems to work whenever there's a glitch on any of the other shows. I just call it on Mercury retrograde and move on.
I'll be damned. I'm gonna see if it's going on my Facebook page.
Yeah.
So what are you talking about aliens doing stuff like that? Like
Well,
what
so if you think about if we go back to the stories, most of the creation stories, the Sumerian Enuma Elish, the Bible creation stories, Native American Indian myths and creation stories, they all say that the creatures from space came down and taught us just about everything. I mean, agriculture, animal husbandry. They gave us the King's List. They gave us government ways of governing ourselves. They gave us religion, another way of governing ourselves. They showed us how to build cities and city structures, and how most cities have a design layout. Like the business area is over here, and the places where people live is over here, and places you grow things are over here.
uh-huh.
So they've given us structure. So why is that? Are they trying to build something that was lost here on the planet, like a major part of their culture? Maybe it's their vacation spot. I mean, or who knows what the reason is? But it seems to me, and it has been seeming to me like this for a long time, that they're trying to build something that was once here that either accidentally or was on purposely destroyed, but they're wanting to put it back together for whatever reason.
Right.
Maybe it wasn't. Maybe we weren't supposed to be destroyed. Maybe we're like like a fly on the wall in between the middle of a huge fight between other creatures, and we accidentally got squished. And to pay their penance, they're rebuilding our society the way it was before. They destroyed it. And that's kind of what the gist is of what the question is. Why are they here? What are they building, or are they rebuilding?
Right. Um I personally think that they're here to help us, dude, to be honest with you.
I get
Seriously.
that. I get that feeling too. But I mean, I still can't help but think that somewhere in the background are some sinister ulterior motives.
Right.
Uh, but I feel like whatever it is that they're doing, there is some honor and some regal purpose into what they're doing. See, there's an actual perfectly good logical reason, if you will, why they're doing it, and I would like to know why. But not knowing the full history of this solar system, we've got the asteroid belt is the full planet that's been completely obliterated. Some
Right.
say by the tidal forces from the planet Jupiter. Others say from a collision with Nibiru or another planet. We've got destruction on Mars. Our planet doesn't stand straight up. It's knocked over about 27 degrees, and it spins around the sun at that angle, but then it spins around that axis all the way around. So something major swept through here, and for whatever reason destroyed a lot of things, at least 2-3 planets worth of things. What are they trying to rebuild? Is it going to be exactly like what was
Well,
here years?
when you just said that, and this thought popped into my mind, okay? Is it possible that they are setting Earth up to become like the aliens' home base for everything? Think about it, Jay. They're close to the sun, they're close to Mars, right?
Yeah.
Um, and we just go with the flow with everything. And they kind of know that about us. So maybe this is going to be, I don't want to call it their sanctuary, but I do want to call it like some kind of base for them. Maybe a nirvana for them.
Hmm.
I don't know. But there is a lot of alien stuff happening nowadays, and it's not your basic whatever you hear on the TV and stuff. I mean,
No,
I'm at
the
work.
activity seems to have ramped up and increased in activity level, but also in the nature of the activity.
Right. Um, but I know whenever I'm out at a restaurant or if I'm walking down the street, I can't help it. Even at work, I can't help it but to look at people, okay, and say, wow, you could be an alien. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? It's just their demeanor, it's the way they act, you know what I mean? And some people have the sense of smell, which is like I never smelled before, you
Hmm.
know. And I'm not being rude. Hey, Mark Eddie, good to see you, buddy.
Hey, Mark.
Mark, can you share this, please? We got bumped off before, and I think we lost all our people who were
Yeah,
listening.
we had a
I appreciate
Mercury
it, man.
retrograde glitch.
Yeah, it's a retrograde thing, I guess,
Yep.
if it is. If it is. But I personally think that, like I was saying before, that the aliens want to use this as like a home base because it, like I said, it's closer to the sun, it's closer to the other planets,
Well,
and that
I mean, I I kind of get the sense that there's some reason that they've chosen this solar system. I don't want to say it's because of us, of the human beings, because um, allegedly they made us from what was on the planet. So I don't think the reason they came here was for human beings. We happen to just be, a side effect of whatever they were doing. Uh, but I
could
can
it
get
be the minerals?
yeah, like you said, they came here for a purpose. I'd always thought, hey, River Rose, I had always thought that there was, a big honking space gun on planet Earth
Right,
100 million years ago, and then during the galactic, we've talked about the wars between heaven and hell, heaven and earth. If you want to call it Ragnarok, whatever, to a primitive society, a space battle, like watching Star Wars from the planet Earth and seeing spaceships beat each other up over your cities and over the planet and crashing to Earth in flames would create a god base.
right.
But why were they here? Did they come here specifically because we're out in the middle of the sticks? There's nothing unique about this solar system. There's nothing around us. So
I, right,
strategically, it's not really. If you want to get closer to an enemy, this is not the place to be. So I'm thinking the reason they came here was because there was something that was destructive here, that was part of the war that the light beings allegedly have quelled some thousands of years ago. And
right.
we don't have the full history on this galactic conflict,
Hmm.
but it seems that whatever that conflict was culminated here. So
Okay,
what
I
what
see where you're going with that, but then
So
planet.
the thing is, what did they destroy? How cool of a society was it? Because they've advanced us. If we're to believe what we've been saying on most of the shows, that the aliens forcibly forcibly evolutionized our species and then forcibly evolutionized our technology. I mean, we went from steam engines where it took us a year to go from Europe to the south to the Americas by boat.
Right,
Into in 100 years, we're floating around the moon
right.
again. 100
Well,
years to go from
what year
steam
was
to outer space. That's rapid. I mean, that's like there's a purpose behind that. So what
yeah.
exactly are they rebuilding? Are they trying to rebuild a giant honking space gun? And which is the reason why our planet got destroyed in the first place?
That's possible, but you also well think about look at all the Ural Mountains. You're looking at all the big mountains. God only knows what they have um, down in them tunnels. Even even the lakes and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Now, is it possible? Yes, maybe they are building this big, humongous Star Trek buzzard gun, whatever you want to call it, and maybe they're here ready to protect us because we do all the work for them. Oh, River got a comment here, buddy.
Oh yeah, that's without question. They know more about the Earth than we.
He says, I feel they know way more about Earth than we think and the way our bodies are made. And I do feel we come from a divine design for a divine reason.
Well, I wish I could feel that way. But the story from the Enuma Elish is that essentially what happened is that the Ijiji are as a group of lesser gods, if you will, part of the Anunnaki society, the worker force. They were here on Earth doing whatever they're doing, mining gold, if you believe Zechariah Sitchin. Why would a spacefaring society need gold? Well, they would, but that wouldn't be why they came here, and it wouldn't be to fix their atmosphere.
Right.
Uh, someone that could travel through our galaxy the way the Anunnaki do, they would have enough control over their own original home planet that they could alter weather patterns. So they would be immune to earthquake, tornado, hurricane, snow blizzard. You name any kind of fatal weather that could kill us here on Earth would be nothing to them. So why did they come here? It wasn't for gold. I would say probably fissionable material. If you're using a space faster than light drive or engine, you need fissionable material, radioactive types of materials,
right,
to fuel these devices. So I think that's probably the main reason why it came here is for fissionable material. But again, there's a major destruction in our solar system, and I think that's part of the big mystery. And you alluded to it a little bit ago, Shawn, that or no, I'm sorry, a River did, that the aliens know more. So allegedly, if the aliens, if we're to believe what they have told people through channeling, they created our species over 2 million years ago, but they've been here for 200 or 300 million years. They've been here long enough. Allegedly, I've heard stories from some abductees where they've been shown film of, they know for sure it's planet Earth. How do they know it's for sure planet Earth? I don't know that answer, but dinosaurs, as we would imagine they would look, like in Jurassic Park, alive, but real, not digital recreations
right,
like Steven Spielberg. And so people have said that the aliens have shown them these data points. So if they've been here that long, that would be very cool to see the evolution of our planet, and they would know the history that we don't. Maybe
right.
there was a race of Earthlings that created a giant honking space gun, and it interfered in the war that was going on in this sector of space, and they decided to go and wipe it out. But now they're
Okay.
trying to fix it and rebuild it. I mean, it's a strange scenario what we have in this solar system.
Oh, of course it is. But I, I, I don't know. I'll play devil's advocate again. That's my job. When it comes down to, for me, and this is my opinion only, um, is it possible? This is my thoughts. Is it possible that there is a bad alien group? We'll just say the reptilians, right? Okay. We'll say they're bad. I don't know if they're bad or good, but I consider them bad. Do you think, hey, Christy Bailey, what's up? Shawn's sinister laugh. But think about it, dude. Is it possible that the Greys are down here, probably setting something up in order to protect us from the alligator reptilian people? I'm telling you, the battle for the aliens is happening here on Earth. It's not out in the solar system, dude.
I don't know that I would call it a battle for the aliens. I think I would call it more of a battle for Earth, or a battle for us. I think they realize that not only does Earth have natural resources that they require and covet, but it also now has us, that that we were engineered by part of these groups to be, for nothing less better than a better word, I can't think of one. They were designed as slaves for these 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 different species of aliens that interact with this planet. Well, the light beings and the gray beings that are controlled by the light beings, they probably didn't create us in as much as the other 2 or 3 did. Anunnaki, the reptilians, and um, the insects. I don't know what they call the insects nowadays. The mantisoids, I think. But anyway, I still think if we could get the whole history of the solar system, I think we would have the answer. But I would really like to know if where the data would be. It's probably only in the hands of the aliens. So can you trust it? What was the society like on this planet before the accidental or intentional destruction?
Right.
Was it are they rebuilding a bunch of sinister assholes that are going to, like, are they rebuilding Klingons, or are they rebuilding, tribbles? What are they building? A nice society, or a society that was, aggressive and oppressive?
Would you agree?
With the reptilians being an aggressive species, which they are, but they are more aligned towards us than they are aligned against us.
Would you agree that maybe all these thoughts are coming into my head? All right, ladies and gentlemen, honest to God, this is paranormal. Believe it or not, it really is. But is it possible that all this stuff is happening underground to where we are not seeing the aspect of the so-called war or the gun? Look at Area 51. Look at out west in Colorado and stuff like that, where you have all the mountains.
Well, you got a good point. Let me get a map going of Nevada. If you haven't looked it up before, whether you're interested in the subject or not, Area 51 is a very small place, but the facility that it's hidden within takes up almost the entire state.
Mm-hmm.
And it's called the Nellis Test Range, or the Nellis Bombing Range. Let me find a good zoom in of it.
I don't know. Excuse me, everybody. I'm eating my dinner. But I don't know. Can I have people's thoughts on what they think? Okay. But being mainly underground, I don't know. See, to me.
Here we go. Awesome. All right, there's a good map right there.
All right, I'll let you explain the map. All right.
Okie doke. Let me get it fired up here. Stream guide, present, and go. All right, so this is the state of Nevada right here.
Okay.
So way up here, you see this cutoff up here. We don't have the whole thing, but up here you see where it says Tonopah.
Yeah.
All right, this is the Tonopah Range. This is like the furthest part away, from the furthest part of the Nellis Air Force Range. This box, this grayish box, is all the bombing range where the Air Force operates. This peach-colored or gray, almost orange box. This is where within here is where you'll find Yucca Flats. There's some other. I don't know what they use this area for. This yellow box is where Area 51 is, and it's also known as Groom Lake. But way up here where it says Tonopah, there's an airport. Okay, that airport is where it's also known as Area 52. That's where the F-117s fly out of.
Right.
Pahudi Mesa, I'm not sure what these airports are here, but these are other Air Force areas. probably where some of the bombers fly out of. To again, the gray areas where the bombers they have like little areas where they drop dummy bombs, so they for accuracy, so they can learn how to drop bombs. And up here where we have the Groom Lake, this airport is known as Homey Ranch right now, I think. But this is where they developed the SR-71 Blackbird, the U-2 spy plane, the F-22 Raptor, the F-117. You name just about any fighter craft we've flown,
Okay.
it flew here first.
Now, is it possible, Jay, that they do have, that alien base underneath there, and the Air Force is kind of like making a deal with the aliens? They say, well, the Air Force says, well, you can have like X, Y, and Z if you can give us A, B, and C.
Yeah.
I, think about it.
No, yeah, I agree. That's been that. Well, we can get to that in a second. No, I don't think the aliens would do that. And that they haven't. They've actually, the Greys were supposed to have done that with for Eisenhower, but they reneged on the agreement, and allegedly we've been at war with them ever since. But yeah, anyway? So Area 51 mostly is terrestrial technology with some exotic materials thrown in that came from UFOs. So there's very little as far as UFO like stuff at Area 51. Allegedly below some of those hangars, it goes down about 23 levels, and under there they have some UFO personnel and
ACL,
they have
good to see you.
non craft technology that they work with there. But also a few minutes south of that is where Site 4 is, and Site 4 is a facility where they keep most of the alien aircraft, and that's where all the really good stuff is. But it's not marked on this map. It's a very small, dry lake, just like Groom Lake. But if anywhere there was a honking space gun, this is probably where it would be. But again, if you look, this is the border of the state. This dotted line here, it takes up almost all of the state. I mean, this is one facility with several compartmentalized places in it, and that's the Air Force's facility. I don't think the Air Force are the ones that are talking to the good aliens. I think the Navy are.
Why the Navy?
Why
the Navy?
The research that I have done over the last 40-some years keeps pointing me at the fact that there are at least 3 alien races interacting with military forces. The gray aliens, the reptilians, and the mantisoid creatures are one set of aliens, and they are as far as my research goes, I understand that they are working with the Army and the Air Force.
Okay.
Then there's those who claim to be the Anunnaki, who were the ones who created us initially, and then since then the reptilians and the mantis and the grays have come in and put their own spin on whatever the Anunnaki did. But allegedly the Anunnaki are the ones who did it first, altered our ancient ancestors. And the research I've done points me in the fact that that's who the Navy has been working with. And the Navy has gotten some pretty good stuff from those aliens.
Right.
But the aliens that made the deal with Eisenhower, those were the gray aliens that are working with the Army and the Air Force. And the reason why I think it's a sinister plan is because the story I have on that group, we'll just call them the trilateral group, because there's 3 different alien species. The reptilians and the insectoids have been working together as sort of a sinister axis powers in outer space, and they started what's called a swarm. And I forget the actual name of the species, but Charles Hall's tall whites are one of these species that were misplaced from the other galaxy that merged with our galaxy. I think they called it not the Andromeda galaxy, but whatever galaxy Joe said that our solar system came from. There was a migration of species from that galaxy into this galaxy because of the conflict between the reptilians and the mantisoid creatures. But
Right.
before then, the Greys encountered the Anunnaki, who are working with the Navy. And the story with that is that the Greys had they lived in a binary solar system, and they were in control of 5 planets on 2 of those solar systems. 3
Okay.
planets on one solar system and 2 planets on the other solar system. And they had depleted all of the usable resources on those 5 or 6 planets that they were in control of. They encountered the Anunnaki, who were just getting to the point of being extra solar. They could fly within their own solar system without problems, but intergalactic or going from another star to another star was difficult for them. But they were approaching that level of technology. That's when they encountered the Greys. And the Greys said, look, we'll give you all this cool technology if you let us onto your planet so we can get these certain resources we need. Well, the Anunnaki agreed because they were going to get a huge boost to their technology. They were getting space travel and whatever else the Greys promised them. And then once the Greys got to their planet, the Anunnaki soon realized that they had been tricked and they weren't going to get all the cool technology they were supposed to get. They got enough to where they can compete against the Greys now, but their planet has been since destroyed and decimated because of this deception. And allegedly the Navy knows this, is working with the Anunnaki to help them help us fend off the aliens of the gray, reptilian, and mantisoid type.
That's a lot to comprehend, my friend.
It's a lot.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I mean, when we talk about exopolitics, it's so hard to like keep that from saying, because like I said, it's a lot. You have 5 societies basically fighting each other over this planet.
For what?
That's the question. I mean, why? What are they here? Why are they here? Are they building, rebuilding? Are they just simply raping the planet of the resources they need, and then they'll move on and leave us with nothing? I mean, it's a huge question.
Well, you guys talk about Mars, and I don't think Mars exists. You know where I stand on that one.
Mm-hmm.
Because of all the CGI photographs of so-called Mars. I think they're just filming that crap out of the Sahara Desert. That's my opinion. but say like, why not grab stuff from Venus? Why cannot grab stuff from Mars or Jupiter or Uranus or even Mercury? Why can't they grab stuff from there? Why does it have to be here?
Well, I don't think they're not taking things from other planets. I just think that it's easier for them to and the asteroid belt 1,000, 10,000, a million years ago, we don't know how far back, but at some point it was a planet. What kind of planet was it? Did it have an atmosphere? Did it have magnetic protection from the sun? Did it have water? Did it have surface water? We don't know.
Right.
But let's just assume that there were 5 inner planets and that they all had water and atmosphere.
Right.
Which would tend to mean that you'd have, now Mercury's too close to the sun. Mercury is not in the Goldilocks zone. So Mercury would never have, you couldn't stand on it with any kind of technology I'm aware of without dying on Mercury. Okay. So Mercury's out of the question. They don't need anything on that planet. But you have Venus, Earth, Mars, and for lack of a better name, the 5th planet. That's four large atmosphered planets. What were they like? What was on them? Did our species migrate from the destroyed planet to Mars, and then from Mars when it got its destruction, and then to here?
Right.
That's the history we need to find out. How are we going to find that history? You'd have to get it from the aliens who said they've been here for millions of years or hundreds of millions of years, and then can you trust that data?
I could not trust the data, dude. I mean, seriously. I don't, in today's world, I don't know who to trust anymore. You want to put that map down? There you go. I don't know who to trust anymore, dudes. Christy Bailey, she has a question. Okay. Christy says, are the Army and Air Force and the Navy be supportive opposing alien races?
Well, okay, so
That's a good
the way
question.
the way that I the
Thank
way
you.
that I think it's working right now, um, the U.S. Navy, Department of the Navy, and the alien species, we'll call them the Anunnaki, are working together, and allegedly the Navy thinks that they're of beneficence to the species. They have good intentions. In other words, Army and Air Force are working with the reptilians, the insects, and the greys, the Zeta Reticulan greys, who also allegedly are being controlled by the light beings. Which, when Joe's here, he can tell you more about that than I can. Allegedly, that the it's flip flop back and forth over the 40 years I've done this. The greys were good, the greys were bad. The reptilians were good, the reptilians were bad. The, the Anunnaki were good, the Anunnaki were bad. Depending on, I don't know what forces or what factors, but every couple 10 years or so, it flip flops, and either falsified data or you know misinformation data comes out, and it makes me think oppositely. Well,
Okay.
currently right now, I still seem to think that I think the Navy and the Anunnaki are the only ones that have our planet and our species best interest in mind. I don't think the triumvirate of the reptilians, insects, and greys, light beings, if they're involved, I don't believe that they could care less what happens to us.
They're
They're more concerned about taking the planet than keeping us one way or the other.
well, if
If they
they're
could, they
trying to
want to keep
take,
us around. But if we were to die, they wouldn't matter to them. The
if they
Anunnaki,
were
if we
trying,
died, it would make it matter. It would matter to them.
if they were trying to take over the planet, though, and then you say that Anunnaki and the Navy are working together, don't you think the Anunnaki can just come in and wipe them out?
Well, the thing is that both sides are too well. It's like a good football game that which we did not have at the Super Bowl. It was a complete blowout. At that
I've
level,
always,
at that level, both of those teams should have. I mean, it should have been you score, we score, you score, we score, you score. It should have gone like that all the way till the fourth quarter, because both of those teams were the two top best of the whole National Football League, no
right.
question. But what happened? One side didn't want it as much as the other.
Yeah.
They lost. So what happened with the Gray Anunnaki? The initial thing was is that it was instant knowledge. The Greys found the Anunnaki, made instant contact, said, "Hey, we're over here, you're over there. Our planets are dying. We have this technology. We'll share it with you if you can share your planet with us." And the Anunnaki said, "Yeah, great. We would love to be spacefaring, powerful beings. Come on over." They got screwed. The Greys took that as a learning experience, and when they found out about us and our planet, they did not want total disclosure right away. They wanted to come in underground and usurp the planet from behind the scenes without anybody knowing about it until it was too late.
Oh, okay. But, since I'll be asking the questions because I am so far out in left field about aliens. So, why do you think that the government is holding back on aliens and stuff like that?
Well, there are a lot of reasons. Number one, they don't know it all. They don't. The U.S. government, when we're talking like senators, Trump, the main face of the government, they know doodly squat. They,
Hmm.
they know less than you and I do, to be quite honest with you. If I were to talk to some of them people, they'd be like, they would go, their heads would explode. They'd lose it. Um,
Right.
and then the few, there's a few that have held in the last couple of years the disclosure talks. Those senators and representatives that are let's just say they're keyed in, but they don't know everything either. It's not the government that's keeping that at bay. It's the black operations programs behind the government, the Majestic 12 group, almost every one of the contractors that's done anything top secret. It's particularly, Skunk Works, Northrop's top secret division. They developed U-2 spy plane, the SR-71, the F-22 Raptor, the F-14, the F-15, the F-16, the F-18. Just about every one of our current fighter jets are Northrop Grumman Skunk Works planes.
Okay. All right. But
So
that
they
doesn't
are
tell me why the government won't give it
they
to
don't
them.
want anyone to know, and it's scary because just a little bit of information that they know. What was his name? The guy that died a few years ago. He was the chief. Hey, Steve. He was the chief.
Hey,
He was the chief guy. He's the second in command of the Skunk Works. He came in the 70s. I can't remember the gentleman's name, but anyway, he said before he died, if you've seen it on Star Trek or Star Wars, we can already do that. We've already been there, and we have the T-shirts for it. Now, John Lear said something quite similar. He's ex-CIA, grandson of Bill Lear, who Learjet Company, and John Lear owns a lot of aviation records, like fastest there, most time, and he's got the most air licenses, like different types of licenses you can obtain as a pilot. Lots of fantastic records. But having been ex-CIA, and he was in the CIA while under Bush. Daddy Bush was head of CIA. That's when John Lear was with the CIA.
Right.
He said almost the same thing that the guy from Skunk Works said, but he said, if you can imagine it, we can already do it. So between these two gentlemen, apparently we already are in possession of at least Star Trek to Star Wars level technologies. Technologies that if they put them out on the shelf right now would end world hunger, homelessness, energy problems, food problems, just about anything you can think of that you have a problem with, you wouldn't have a problem with it anymore.
Right. That's quite interesting. I don't know. It just I don't know. I think there's some
think about it. If you're in control of all that kind of technology and then you let it out, you're no longer the richest person on the planet. You're no longer the most powerful person on the planet.
Well, you know what? That's happening right now with what Trump is doing and taking everybody's monies away.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. I don't know. It just seems like this is just too much for my brain to handle. Right now.
The only reason I can think of, besides the fact they lose the reason why air is free is because the goddamn government can't put a meter on it. If they could put a meter on your oxygen, I guarantee you'd be paying tax on oxygen. Guarantee in this country you'd be paying 1 or 2% sales tax on oxygen. They can't run it through a meter to get. They can run electricity through a meter. That they have that thing on the side of your house. The guy comes by and he gets the numbers, and then they charge you however much money they. Gasoline, they can weigh it. You buy this much, buy it by the gallon, buy it by the deciliter. That's how much you pay for it. Anything they can put a meter on, they can sell it. They can make money off of. Most of these technologies would eliminate that, number one. And number two, how do you also go about and telling your citizens, hey, look, we're going to dump all these fantastic new technologies on you. Oh, and by the way, we're not in control of our skies or the very near space around our planet. So don't leave or you'll get killed.
Right.
How do you say that? And then that's also part of what, because it happened right after the Foo Fighters and all that kind of stuff happened during World War II, and UFOs have been a phenomenon well before World War II, but it was directly the years after that the nuclear bombs and the Cold War, that they realized, how do we tell the rest of the planet that we are not in control of our skies, and that there are creatures and technologies that can fly without impedance across our planet and destroy our militaries as at a whim? How do you tell people that?
So let me ask you this question. Um, Now, I have heard that every time there's a war going on, that the UFOs are around a lot more.
Oh yes,
Can you explain that, please?
I can only suggest, because I consider myself a Jaffo. I'm trained as a photographer, videographer. I can expose film, both still and motion, and I can expose magnetic carriers of videotape. Uh, Strictly historical purpose. They're observing, whether they're observing to find out things about themselves, how they evolved, because at some point they were like us.
Right.
So this could be the great experiment for them. Not only did they engineer us out of this planet's great ape species, it was sufficiently enough like their own evolution that they're like, well, let's let these things go. Let's see why we are the way we are. Let's see how we came to be. So they film all of what's going on. I mean, they were in the middle of some of the key battles of World War II. I mean, I've seen pictures of these things following our bombers on the way to drop bombs in Europe. There are pictures of those things zipping through dogfights.
Damn.
So yeah, I mean, so you're in the middle of a fight in over Japan with it's Mitsubishi Zeros, and you're flying the Grumman F4U Corsair, and this white light flies between you. That's a huge concern. How do you tell your citizens, hey, by the way, we won the war, but there's these things. We can't stop them. We don't know what they are, but they're coming after us. So there's a lot to the story that they don't want to come out, but at some point there's going to be it's going to come out. You can't get around it. It's going to happen, and then when that happens, how much of the planet just loses it in complete utter that's part of it. I mean, I think they think a lot of us are going to panic. There'll be 50% of the planet will commit suicide.
Right.
I mean, would that be a bad thing? I don't know.
But I don't think that would happen, Jay, because this is the 21st century. People are more open to.
I think there's enough mental illness that there would be quite a few people who would lose it to the point of suicide, but it wouldn't be like 50% of the planet. No, 2%, 1%, something like that. But I mean, that's still a lot. I mean, 1% of a billion is like what, 1 million people.
Well, you've seen whenever them drones are flying over New Jersey and New York, how many people wanted to go out and shoot them down?
Yeah.
They weren't running for the hills. No one was.
I don't think people were thinking it was an alien technology. If that was, if that was 18 or 15 Klingon attack cruisers with millions of, very tall, very strong, stronger than human being soldiers, yeah, I'd probably poop in my pants. But they weren't. It was a technology that we had already become familiar with. So people were like, yeah, just shoot them down. They don't care. Change those from drones to UFO space creatures.
What I'm talking about, Jay, is how people automatically went for their guns and started shooting at their drones. That's what I'm trying to come across here. They didn't care. They just went balls to the walls on say, hey, I'm going to shoot this thing down, until the government came in and said, do not shoot at these drones. Oh, Christy got something going on here. She says, the best way to tell people something is to say how it is directly. I think people are ready. I don't think people will go crazy unless we were under attack.
Yeah, I
Thank you.
agree. If we were
I
under attack,
agree
I
with
think
that
it'd be a different story.
100%, Chris. Thank you very much for saying that, Chrissy. That was a nice compliment, or
Yeah.
for everybody to understand. Another question for you, bud. Now, I've been on this platform for a long time, and I've talked to a lot of UFO people. Can you please explain to me what the hell was the Battle of Los Angeles?
So that's a good one. I just actually watched something on that yesterday or the day before. So there's a couple of pretty good photographs. And so what happened is some people speculate it was a targeting balloon. Well, I don't think it was a targeting balloon. There's Michael. So
Hey, Michael.
how you doing, Michael?
Almighty Pad Leon. I'm chanting.
Battle of Los Angeles. We were just about to talk about is an alleged UFO event. World War II. During World War II, we were already involved, and I think it was in the summertime, March or June. But an alleged unidentified alien object flew over the city, and thousands, 6,000 or 7,000 rounds of AAA were shot into the air at this thing.
I remember that.
Yeah,
I mean, I wasn't there, but
no, I wasn't there.
I remember hearing about it.
And huge story. I mean, there's the picture in the newspaper of, like, it's got 3 or 4 spotlights on it, and there's like a UFO. It's the typical inverted pie plate over an inverted pie plate saucer in the middle of these 3 beams, and then AAA flak popping all over the place. So if anything, it was if it was one of our targeting balloons, which we used to aim and calibrate the guns on the ground, the AAA guns, for any sky attacks over Los Angeles. Well, it was one of those, they would have blown it out of the sky, and they didn't. So whatever it was hit with flak and didn't come out of the sky.
Why do you think? This is a question on my mind for both of you. Why do you think they mess with us? Like let me cruise down through Manhattan, and then people are like, "Oh, look at that UFO," or like, I mean, they're kind of everywhere and anywhere and anywhere and everywhere. And I have my own UFO stories. I have got 2 that are really interesting, and in one of them, we were surrounded by government agents and police after I had seen these lights, and it was at Montauk Point, right by there's an Air Force base, unbeknownst to me.
Yeah. And
then we were leaving the park. This was like 4:00 in the morning. All right, let me tell you a story. You want to hear the story?
Yeah.
I'll start from the beginning. When I was hanging out with my friend Andy, and we were at a bar. We were 17, though. They used to allow us in bars at 17, for entertainment purposes. So he and I don't drink, though. And he and I were sitting there talking. And then I said, Montauk Sunrise is such a cool place for the sunrise. I'm like, Montauk Point, you see the ships go out and all that. And he's like, oh, cool, man, let's go. And at this point, it's like 1:00. And I'm like, it's like a 2-hour ride. He tells me he just bought this new car. It was an old police car and whatever. And I could drive. So I'm like, okay, cool, So we cruise out there. And then we're at the point. We realized it's too cold, too windy. We didn't want to be there. We were still 3 hours to sunrise. We weren't romantic for each other. I wasn't sitting in the dude with a car. The car with the dude for 3 hours. So I'm like, let's get the hell out of here. We start leaving the park. This is where there's a story called the Montauk Boys and with the Montauk Experiments. This is there, right? We're cruising out of the park, and then there was all of a sudden the whole car, pitch black, the whole car gets lit up with lights, like from above. Boom, boom, boom. But it wasn't like a helicopter. I've seen that in Queens and Brooklyn. I've been part of that. This was colored lighting. And like really sparkly, like if you look at a diamond in the sunshine, that kind of colorage was shining down the whole freaking area. It was there, it was gone. And I was like, holy crap. And I said to my friend, Eddie, you see that? And he's like, oh, I don't know, man. I think so. Because he was like a little drunk. So, all right, we continue driving. All of a sudden, I get pulled over. G12 license plates, government guys, they get out, they drag us out of the car. One guy pulled the gun, put it on Andy. Another guy pulls the gun, sticks it in my gut. And then it's serious. And he's like, what were you doing at the Air Force Base? What were you doing down there? What did you see? What were you doing? And I'm like, nothing. And there was also East Hampton police there, state troopers, but they were further away. These government guys were just talking to us. All right. And then they're like yelling, literally screaming at us. I'm 17, dude. You know what I mean? And my friend Andy was 18. It was like we were just two kids, basically. I said, didn't see anything. Didn't even know there was an Air Force Base. You know, like all this stuff I had no clue, nothing. And then the guy leaves. And this is how I can prove it. He leaves us with an East Hampton police officer who gives me 6 tickets for the car. You know, that because Andy had just bought the car, so he put his old license plates on that car, which is illegal. He had no insurance on the car, which is illegal. And I was the one driving the car, so I was the one who got the tickets, right? And so all this happened. We're freaked out. We still had the 2-hour ride back home. I told my mom about it. I woke her up. Like, you wouldn't believe what happened at Montauk Point. She's like, what are you doing at Montauk Point? What are you doing there? You were driving my car, were you? I'm like, no. I'm like, we went out there. So nothing happened of it. Didn't hear anything about that. When I went to court about the tickets, they threw them all out. Didn't have to pay for anything. They just dismissed them all, you know. And then and the ADA, she was very weird about looking at me weird and acting weird. And dude, in this court, there were people that went 31 miles an hour to 30, and they got speeding tickets, and they had to pay. So it was Hampton's court. It wasn't like they take 6 tickets, no insurance, no registration, no fake license plates. I mean, that's some serious stuff, you know. I was worried because I was like, man, I'm going to get tanked. At that time, I lost my driver's license because I was drag racing, and I got busted for that a couple of times. So I took my license away. You know what I mean? So anyway, it wasn't until a couple of years later that I was at a club and I met this girl, and we started talking, and we were sharing weird experiences. And I told her, you know, what happened. And then she's like, man, have you ever heard the Montauk Boys? And then she hit me up with a book a couple of days later about the experiments that they did underground at Montauk. There was 35 floors underneath, right? Yeah. And they did all kinds of alien crossbreed experiments from one to the other, doing all these things. And you know, there's a lot of people that speak about this, but I'm going to throw a real clincher in there for you. You're going to love this one, okay? Mm-hmm. So there's Brookhaven Labs, which isn't too far from the Hamptons. This janitor that used to come into 7-Eleven, my friend Bobby and I would be playing video games there all night long. You know, so this janitor used to always come in, you know, from Brookhaven Labs. He told us he was a janitor there or whatever. We always talk about stuff. And he's like, man, I see some stuff. You wouldn't believe it if I could tell you. You know what I mean? And then he would always say this to us because he's the guy who cleaned those labs. He's the guy who was in charge of the crew who cleaned those labs under that Montauk, right? So he said there was an underground tram that goes from Brookhaven Labs to that Montauk site, that the top of the site's all sealed off. They poured concrete over it, sarcophagus, you can't get in, but underneath is still alive and well. So this dude comes in drunk off his ass. You know, they fired me, those bastards, and whatever. He's like, you know, they got alien shit down there. You wouldn't believe the stuff they have. And Bobby and I, so Bobby's ex-Marines, and he got kicked out for punching an NCO. So we're basically two losers sitting there listening to this guy scream about aliens and this and that and this stuff, and how his workers have gotten in trouble. Some of them disappeared because they knew too much. Oh man. So, but what do you think about that? I mean, I know Montauk's a popular story, but I don't know if people know about the janitor and all that stuff, you know.
No, not at all. I didn't hear about that. But let me ask you fellows a question, all right? With all these experiments that they do, the alien crossbreeding and stuff, do you think that some of the experiments made the Wolfman, you know, the wolf, or what the hell is he called? The dog man.
The dog man.
Do you believe? Is it possible? Because my friend Zenny, she we had a show one time, and she believes that a lot of the experiments that they were doing underground, kind of like made these cryptids. What do you guys think?
There's stuff that washed up on Long Island shores. You got Gardner's Island, you got Fisher Island, which were known as biological testing labs. Biological warfare. There's one time this green gas came out of one of them, and everybody on the Eastern Seaboard got flu-like symptoms, and then they tried to downplay it, and that's where that naked animal washed up with the big fangs that they're trying to say it was a dog. It doesn't look like a dog, but that was a shore. They said something escaped from the lab. It died. It washed up. But yeah, I would believe any of that. And you can't discount the Museum of Natural History in Manhattan, that does all that animal testing, all that. I mean, they do stuff that people don't even want to know about, even to cats and dogs and whatever. It's criminal. What they
I heard about that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, back in the 50s too, the Russians were doing some stuff that would be today considered criminal. Transferring one monkey's head to another monkey's body and so on, experiments of that nature. So yeah, are the government still probably doing that? And
how do you think they got Joe Biden, man? How do you think that happened? Well, it's monkey brains. But I mean, seriously, without a conscience, you got to think that there's doctors out there that do things without a conscience.
Yeah, don't care. I agree. I think there's still some, under the radar experiments that should be going on. But if you look back in history, also the chimera, the hippogriff, the mermaids and mermen, merfolk. You have all these weird creatures. I mean, the chimera is a combination of a lion, a snake, and an eagle. So
what about the chupacabra?
But I'm talking like the mythological creatures. Cyclopes, the giants, and whatnot. All the mythological creatures. The Hydra. Some of these creatures aren't fictional. Like there actually is an amoeba called a Hydra that looks like the Lernaean Hydra, but it's a microscopic. How did they know about it? Where did these ideas for these creatures come from? Centaurs and minotaurs and all these weird half biological creatures that were part man and part bull, part dog, part alligator. I mean, there's the god Sobek in the Egyptian mythos. He's got the face of a crocodile and the body of a man.
You know what? I have a whole theory that the dinosaurs and all that didn't live all that long ago. That I don't believe in that million-year stuff. They're basing everything on carbon testing, but carbon testing is a generalization of the Earth and how the Earth grows. But if the Earth grows fast, and you're assuming that there's millions of years that went by, you're going to base that carbon testing on that. And I don't even think that they need that. I think they need to listen to stories from Native Americans who have stories from 75,000 years ago. I mean, that's when their people first came to the Midwest, or the West anyway, where they were. And they said at that time it was all plush and green and all of that. There was no desert there. There was no nothing. And that had to have been around the beginning of the Ice Age, if you think about it, because the Ice Age lasted around 13,000 years. So there's a lot of stuff that we'll just never know. And then there's people that don't want us to know things either.
But we were talking about that before you came on the show. We were talking about, why are the aliens here? Are they rebuilding something that they destroyed by accident? Are they rebuilding something that was destroyed on purpose? It was a big honky space gun, or was it, the Fhloston Paradise? Or was it their favorite vacation spot? Why are they here? Why are they rebuilding? And what is the history of our solar system? I mean, we were talking about this on other shows as well. What is the history of the solar system? Why are there 5? It appears to be the fifth planet, Mars, and Earth have been, there was like a major destruction in this solar system. What's the history? What happened? Is what happened part of why the aliens are here? Did they come to fix what they've broken?
So for the Navajo, they call it the Star People, right? I hope you say ant people. But they came down, and they say that was the third world. They came down, they took everybody. Some say underground, some say in a type of a vessel. They didn't really have any words to describe what they were experiencing, but they got taken away, And then when they brought back, everything was a desert, and they call that emerging into the fourth world. They said that the Star People told them it was very important to have all the Indian nations come together in one place. And they went and formed Chaco Canyon in New Mexico. And that was initially to be for the all the tribes to come together and meet and whatever it became. The Anasazi came and took over, and they were known as the people who aren't like us. That's what Anasazi means, people who aren't like us. They were slave traders. They were terrible people. They built those high walls to keep people in. A lot of anthropologists always thought those walls were built to keep people out, but they were slaves that they were trying to keep in. And then eventually they left, and then they continued on. But think about the Star People. If they're going to say all these communities come together, they want people to go into a certain direction. And man, if you want alien stories, talk to any Native American who lives on the res. Any one of them are going to tell you, and they're happy to talk. They'll talk your ear off about things they've seen, things they've experienced. But now there's a lake, Hope Lake, and then there's frequent ships that come out of there. And then if you shoot a camera at a certain speed, you can actually see them go in and out. But otherwise, it's so fast, it's beyond the someone's perception of sight. A human's perception, because we can only see so much. I mean, think about it. We're very limited as creatures.
Hey, listen, guys, we're gonna be taking a break here now, maybe about a 2-minute break, so I can play some stuff, and we'll be back in 2 minutes, guys. Let me get down here. Okay, where are we at? Let's play this one right here.
What's out there? What creates the shadows in the corners or the creatures of the dark? Who are those on the other side? What do they have to say? This is the Gateway Podcast. This is not your normal style of paranormal talk radio. Brought to you live from United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM New Orleans.
Welcome to Negotiating Happiness, the show that helps you find happiness, success, and balance in your work and life. I'm Adriana Fiestra, your host for this journey into entrepreneurship and personal growth. We're broadcasting live on 107.7 and 105.3 FM in New Orleans as part of the United Public Radio Network. We explore the latest strategies, insights, and stories from successful entrepreneurs and experts. From managing stress to building a thriving business.
Welcome to the Outer Realm with Michelle DeRoche and Amelia Pisano. Airing live on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 FM in New Orleans.
Tune in to UFO Undercover, Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern, with your host, Joe Montaldo, right here on the Paranormal Radio Network.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to the second part of UFO Undercover, and we're discussing aliens on Earth. A couple little messages here. We want to wish Michael Angley good luck because he starts his new show on Saturday nights right after the chat.
That's right.
Yeah. And also want to say
thank
that,
you.
and Shawn, me, is the host of Into the Night, which is on Sunday nights and Tuesday nights, 8:10 to 9:10 on this platform. And I'm also a co-host on Friday nights along with Joe, Jay, and Michael and Leah on what's it called? News on the Flip Side. Then
I know
Saturday
TFS News
night.
on the flip
The
side.
Centralist.
Saturday night.
Saturday's
Saturday
chat.
night.
Fridays
We
Centralist.
We on the
And then-
Central?
Well, the News on the Flip Side used to be called the Centralist when me and Michael were doing it years and years ago.
Oh, now it's News on the Flip Side.
Now it's News on the Flip Side, yeah.
But getting back to what we were talking about, Michael was sharing a story, and so was Jay. I'm not really big on aliens, so I'm learning stuff from these two guys. So we were talking about aliens on Earth, what's their whole meaning, and are they here to protect us or are they here to fight us? And take it away, Jay.
Yeah, I still think I think we're working with two different factions. You know, is it good? Are they good? Are they evil? Are they good? Are our intentions or their intentions in our benefit or not in our benefit? It's really objective, but I do think that there's two different groups of. There's four species, but two distinct groups that are vying for control of or that are behind the scenes trying to direct how things are going. The research that I have been pointing at, and I said earlier, directs me to say that the Navy is working with one alien species. The Navy and the Air Force, the Air Force and the Army are working with three other species: the reptilians, the insectoids, and the grays. And I think that they have the sinister background. I think they have. I don't think the reptilians of themselves would want to do us harm because we share the same DNA. But I do think the Greys would, and I think the Greys are in control of that sinister trio over there.
What do you think, Michael?
You know, I think that there's a huge range of life on the planet, from low to high. I mean, millions of species, maybe even billions when you get into, bacteria and stuff like that of life.
Oh God, yeah. If you're going to go bacteria and viruses, there's how many gajillions of species.
Yeah. So space is infinite. You know, I find it hard to believe there's only 2 or 3 advanced species, especially if they've existed for billions of years. Usually beings extinguish themselves. They get to a certain point. Humans doing that now with AI. You get to a certain point where you stop functioning and something else functions for you, and then you wither away and die. You know, my supposition on a lot of these aliens is that they're just, if they're life forms, they're blithering idiots because their technology had taken them to the point where they didn't have to do anything anymore. I mean,
yeah, they can't exist without their technology now.
Much of our lives is necessity, and then the mother of invention. You know, and then we move in those areas, and we look for food, we look for water, we look for safety and housing. Humans' needs are very simple. If you're an advanced creature, and we've only been around for a short time. If you're an advanced creature, imagine if you got 1 million years under your belt, 1 million years, right? And then you've got this tech, and you survive that point. You already know that all of life, the meaning of life is leading a worthy life. When people ask me, what's the meaning of life? It's to lead a worthy life. It doesn't matter what that is. It just matters that you matter, you know? And then, because a lot of people think they should be this or they should be that, or they have these dreams that are maybe unobtainable, but it's important to have dreams. But now, all right, getting back to aliens, we know that there was an alien battle over Nuremberg, Germany in the 1500s. And a short time later, it was over Switzerland. I don't believe there were sunspots. I've seen sunspots. I've seen, pillars, sun pillars. I have pictures of them, you know, and it was big enough where everybody in the town saw it. They actually had a newspaper back then. They wrote it in the newspaper. The artists carved it out in wood.
They made wood cuts out of it and made
They said that these discs So all these discs, there was red discs and black discs,
Let me see
and
if
they
I
were
can find that.
attacking each other. And then a lot of them were crashing to the ground, exploding. And then a big arrowhead-looking thing shows up. These discs, one group flies into it, and then it leaves. That was the story. And that's not sunspots or any kind of meteorological thing, you know. So what the aliens want? You know what? I think it goes back to the story of Mars. I know Shawn don't believe Mars, but but the original story, I go back to that CIA report. I reference that every time because I feel like it's legitimate, and there's no reason for them to ever release something like that without it being something. I mean, you know, I don't know. I believe in those psychic mediums who are doing the remote viewing, and I believe that the people on Mars had a major cataclysm happen. They had to get the hell out of there. They sent somebody with a team to a planet that was close by, but the planet it was volcanic and it had all kinds of problems. They had to get control of the atmosphere, right? And you know, this is going back a million years. But these beings were dying off. They were super tall, you know, they're very, very thin looking. I mean, all these descriptions came out from the CIA agent and you know, the remote viewers that they were using. So, but think about Noah's Ark. You know what's crazy? This is what hit me. It hit me hard while I was watching the stupid Noah movie with the last one that they made. Who's that guy in there? Man, I can't remember the chick from Harry Potter was in it. She was there. It was like, I don't watch a lot of movies, like newer movies, so I don't know.
I know which one are you talking about. I don't remember the guy's name either, but yeah.
Russell Crowe was the guy, right? So I'm watching this movie, and then when he said pairs of animals, and I had just read this huge thing about DNA and the ACTG that makes up all DNA in humans, animals. Animals and humans have the same ACTG, those 4 functions. And that makes up everything about you. It makes up all your chromosomes, everything. So if you're an advanced, let's say you're an advanced species, super advanced. I mean, look at what we can do with computers. Look at what we're doing with 3D printing, 4D printing, and all that, right? If you're an advanced species, you should be able to genetically correct or make whatever you want. If you're an advanced species and you're dying and you're a spiritual being, you want your spirit to go into something. And a long time ago, I knew this great psychic from the city. He told me that we're in a huge recycling system, that human spirits get recycled into other human energy, and that the energy doesn't die, it just keeps going and keeping it was set up like that on purpose, you know. And he didn't attribute it to God; he attributed it to something other, right? But think about it. They need to leave a planet. The planet's falling apart. They got nothing left there. It's a barren wasteland, as we can see. They come to this planet. What do they got to do? They got to control the weather. They got to somewhat control the atmosphere. And a lot of people say the moon is an artificial moon. That's why when they slammed the
100%. The moon is not only is it the exact diameter that it needs to be at the distance from the planet to block out the sun for an eclipse, but of all the umpteen billion objects, I mean, particularly planet-sized, let me say that again, planet-sized objects in our solar system alone, there are over 300 of them. All of them, all 300 and more, and even like regular old space debris, all of it has an elliptical orbit around whatever it's going around, whether it's the moon or the planet or whatever. They're all ellipses. The moon's orbit is nearly perfectly round.
Right. And they don't know, so scientists don't even know where the moon came from. They said there's no reason for the moon to be there. It didn't come from this Earth. You know what I mean? But remember,
it didn't come from the solar system. But
when NASA was leaving, they slammed the lander into the moon, and it rang like a bell for half an hour. They recorded this. They kept it a secret for 44 years. That this thing rang like a bell.
From Apollo 11 forward, every time when they dropped the LEM, the lunar excursion module that they go to the moon with, once they dock with the command module, they drop the LEM. They let go of it and it falls back to the moon. And that big piece of equipment held 2 human beings for 3 or 4 days on the moon. Big heavy piece of equipment. When it hits the moon, They said it's like a gong. And then the longest time was at the end of Apollo 17, which was the last one, 1975, I believe. They say that the equipment, when it hit the moon, the moon rang for 4 hours.
Yeah, not wild.
It resonated for
You
4
know
hours.
what? I didn't even know that. But listen, Jay, what's this picture that you put up?
So this is the 1563 Battle of Nuremberg. I've seen this one, and I've seen others. There's a whole bunch of them. Let me go to the actual page so you can see.
I
my
love how
mouse.
it has the ships crashing to the ground and smoke.
It's got, yes. There's a whole bunch of these colored balls, brown, and I guess orange colored balls, and
Look
one
at the
blue
little
ball.
people pointing.
Yeah, and there's people pointing out, people looking at it, all over the place. But you got X's, you've got O's, you've got blue, you've got orange, and you've got brown. Then you've got these cylinders that I've seen other woodcuts with this design, but they see the balls leaving like it's a carrier. So apparently the cylindrical devices, like these pillars that they call them, were close enough that people could see other objects launching from them and being recovered by them.
People have seen UFO cylinders many, many times. Cigar shape.
Nowadays we call them the cigars, but I've seen footage of them with both launching and recovering vehicles.
Like, this is an accurate description of what they saw that morning.
100%, yeah. It's as best as they can do. I mean, you got O's, you got X's, and O's together. You've got these pillar things. This one's broken. This pillar is broken. This is an orange pillar that's broken. The blue ones seem to be winning the battle. There are more blue circles than there are brown or orange. And then you see on the ground here, mostly brown and orange circles are on fire, as Michael said.
It's just amazing that this actually happened.
This was the local newspaper that Michael was talking about as well. This is the newspaper page from that day in what day it is? 14 April 1561. That is the date of
That
this
is crazy,
article.
man. That is crazy.
And then it happened a short time later over Switzerland. Same thing. They maybe 20 years later, something like that. It was a short time later.
Wouldn't it be amazing
By the actual media
if we knew who was actually fighting up there?
They were having a battle, whatever it was. It was. You know what's funny? I went on Google Earth, and I looked at Nuremberg, and I looked for large areas, because if a vehicle of radiation crashes into the ground, even 500 years ago, it's still going to affect the soil. That nothing will grow. I mean, most of our radiation has a half-life of 5,000 years. So you depend on it. When I was looking around, I did find a few areas, very large clearings in forest areas, heavy forest, large clearing, nothing there, no building, no road near it, nothing. But yet, I mean, yeah, that could happen. But if I was there investigating, I would go and test the soil to see if I found some kind of radiation or even debris. Because who the hell even goes in there? And even if someone found alien debris, they probably wouldn't know what the hell it was to begin with, because there would only be little chunks and bits of it.
You might not notice anything that's, let's say, alien. But however, if they were using fissionable material, and that's what powers their ships, we talked about that earlier in the show too. That would absolutely, as you said, absolutely 100% poison the area. Oh, yeah. And it should be detectable if it's radioactive with a Geiger counter.
That, I mean, I have one right next to me.
Oh, cool! I need to get
carry it around.
But allegedly, like, what is it? It's like 4 clicks or 5 clicks is like normal background. But
mine detects alpha, gamma, beta, delta, so it does different, 4 different functions, but it does work. You know why I bought it? Because in the antique business, sometimes you'll buy plates and things like that are really old. And they used to paint them with uranium. There's a uranium paint. And you really want to know if you're handling that, if anything that you have made was painted. And don't you know, I've had a few, and then that Geiger counter goes off, and it lets you know that thing is radioactive on the lower level, but it gives you those readings. It's interesting.
Yeah. No, I definitely want to get one
Maybe
because
I'll buy one and go to. That's funny. Buy a
uh,
Geiger counter, going to an antique store, and that's going off because of uranium. And then for me going into an antique store, I just feel and see a lot of ghosts that are connected
we
to
just
the.
we just opened up a store, our antique shop across the hall here, or it's 2 blocks up the road here. They rent out vendors spaces so you can bring your own antiques or whatever you want, records. One guy has like plastic model cars you can buy, which I'm probably going to buy a couple. But we just rented a booth to sell our paintings that we're making. And now that you say that, now going in and out of that place every day, I'm going to have to bring a Geiger counter with me. And I just, can I buy this plate? It's radioactive.
Yeah, I had my antique store for a little while, and I'll tell you, there's things that I was dealing with other dealers that were renting out spaces to some other dealers, plus with my own stuff to keep things moving, coming and going. I spent a lot of hours alone in that store, daytime, nighttime, late at night. We would take in objects that sometimes would change the whole feeling of the store. I mean, the whole mood, man. And until I got rid of it, it would be like that. And I learned that about the antique business. And these are people's, like a lot of cases, prized possessions, and they die.
Yeah,
It goes
sometimes.
into an estate. And then a lot of times people follow their stuff. I have a friend that had a haunted refrigerator. And she's like, is a ghost in my fridge? I said, no, but he's attached to it. You know what I mean? It's not like he's not centered there, but he's attached to it. They can be attached to a lot of different things and then kind of be there when they want to be there. So, when she was in Missouri, and I actually found a group that I had a really big network at one time, over 3,000 people, groups, and then I had a group there, and I sent them a message. They went in there and investigated. They treated her really well. They did a great job.
That gives me an interesting segue, though. The radioactivity thing is we have detected in Göbekli Tepe and the other. There's like 2 or 3 different Göbekli sites in Turkey that age the carbon dating ages them to the younger, like before the flood, like 14,000, 12,500, 14,500, 15,000 years ago. But they have higher than normal background radiation. They've also found a place like that somewhere around the Sinai. It's even way more radioactive than the Göbekli sites. And I think that since we have launched our own in 1945, there were 3 explosions that we lit off. The U.S. did 3 explosions, not 2, 3. The first one was a test, which we did at the Trinity test site to make sure the technology worked. Hate to deliver that and it goes ding, it just bounces down the street, doesn't hurt anybody. And then we launched off the other 2, Nagasaki and Hiroshima. If we hadn't have done that, I think we might have been able to determine that there were 4 or 5 or 6 or more aerial burst nuclear explosions on this planet. I know, Shawn, you don't believe Mars exists, but it does. We have, optical instruments that verify its existence. There are opticals and not digital, but actual optical images.
The only way I know that Mars is going to exist, guys, is if I get in on the spacecraft and go to Mars.
Well, gotta call Elon. Get that ride.
We may be able to get that to happen, but in the atmosphere of Mars, there have been detected 2 types of radiations that can only be explained by a man-made nuclear explosion in the atmosphere of Mars, which is significant because, like I said, if we hadn't blown those 3 most recent explosions off in the 1940s, the Trinity test site in Nagasaki and Hiroshima, we might have detected nuclear attack on this planet as well.
Look at the Indians, man. I mean, like from India.
Yes,
they
exactly
got a history of all kinds of nuclear explosions, and their
Right.
gods shooting these rockets in the air,
Mhm.
yeah, man. So I mean, you
Shiva.
got to look at that and understand that that's what their interpretation was.
There's 2 cities that are mentioned in the Mahabharata. That one is Dwarka, and I forget what the other one's called. They found Dwarka just like this year or last year, they literally found the city that was a myth in the Mahabharata, like Troy. Troy used to be a myth. Troy didn't. No one believed Troy ever existed. And then was it Heinrich Schliemann discovered the actual physical historical site of Troy, where the woman who was abducted and started a giant war.
Helena?
Yeah, Helena of Troy, exactly right. Yeah, that whole story is real. It's not a myth.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am telling you, I am the luckiest guy in the world because I co-host with Jay, Michael, and Joe Montaldo, that is. And I have learned so much from these guys, man. Honest to Pete, they're like walking encyclopedias. Is
It's
what
our
they are.
obsessive compulsiveness. I
It's our
appreciate it,
OCD,
man.
Michael.
It
That
just
is
I mean
exposes
that.
us.
That is exactly
It exposes us as being obsessive compulsive.
I mean that.
You gotta know every detail. I want to count every grain of sand.
I'm so OCD about this information, and I've talked to people in bars and other social events, and in my head I'm thinking to myself, is he? And let me. Yep. Okay. He's too dumb. He can't. He doesn't know enough for this conversation to continue. So then I'll be like, hey, look, I can't talk to you unless you read this book or read up on this subject. So do that, please, for me, and then come back and we will talk again. Now,
You
I
know what
will
it's for me, man?
literally ended the conversation with people on UFO subjects because they haven't read into it enough to my satisfaction that I can talk to them. I'm not going to give them the information that they need to start the conversation with me. That's a hard. I mean, the radio shows is different, but if I'm at a bar and you don't know who Eric Von Daniken is, you're not going to find out from me. You better go read up on the man and then come back and talk to me.
You can't have conversations in bars. Bar conversations are good for music or like throwing darts or when you get into like philosophical stuff. You never know you're going to run into. You're not going to run into Albert Schweitzer necessarily.
You're exactly right. The conversations that the places I had, we were playing darts and pool. And I don't want to get into a 3-hour discussion of Roswell. But that happened at one time at Jim Collins' bar, and 2 or 3 guys. It was very busy, and we weren't able to play pool fast enough. So instead of playing pool, we talked, and Roswell came up, and I talked about that. And then some guy from Chicago called me up and threatened my life, and he threatened a policeman's life. That was fun. But the one time I actually did talk about that at length in public. When I get home, my phone is ringing off the hook, and some guy threatens my life for the next 3 or 4 hours.
Why?
Because I had that conversation in public.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
well,
I'm not making that up.
Segue into the radiation that we were just talking about.
Right?
Could the aliens have actually told us about radiation?
Chaco Canyon, New Mexico, was right by Shiprock. That whole area. That's where they see all the skinwalkers, right? A large concentration of them anyway. That's where they mine uranium. That's where we have uranium mines all over the region there. So think about uranium in the earth, New Mexico. I mean, the whole connection. But going back to going around the world. So I think it's called Bald Mountain in Turkey, right? They found the same Navajo symbol that you find, in New Mexico or Arizona. So it's and then the Navajo were told to spread out, go out in a circle, go around and around and around, and put this mark wherever you go. Put this mark. But a lot of people who are in the know believe that those very same aliens dropped off those people to Turkey because it all happened relatively at the same time. This is thousands and thousands of years ago. Before all the Bible stories, before all of that. I think that
doesn't surprise one bit. Evan and William Strong are 2 Australian researchers, guys I know down under, that they have found. I forget the exact name of it, but I think it's called Proto-Egyptian hieroglyphs. So it's like before with the first language, I forget. If I was watching Stargate, the movie, I could tell you the first native Egyptian language, the name of it. But in any event, they found Proto-Egyptian hieroglyphs. Like it's like finding Proto-cuneiform. We have cuneiform. We don't have what came before it. Cuneiform,
because there's old
nowhere.
saying.
There's no beginnings for it. It just is,
The first line of the Tao Te Ching is that the story that can be told is not the eternal story, and so there we don't know what happened a million years ago, 2 million, 5 million. I mean, what civilizations? I mean, exist, and also the famed satellite that's navigating the Earth on a polar navigation. That they believe has been there for thousands and thousands of years, monitoring what we do.
There are some stories of the time before the moon as well. So we can go back far enough. We can find stories where there is no moon.
And how come? Why? How come all the craters on the moon are the same depth and they're very shallow?
They're not all the same depth, but they are of a.
They're all right there in the range, though. There's nothing deep. You know what? I'm right by a lake.
They only go so far. They don't go more than like 78.
I'm right by a lake that's 600 feet deep. You know what I mean? So, and there's a couple of them here. So when you think about the depths of stuff, you don't have that. I don't know. I also know that they've been making all those trips to the dark side of the moon, which used to be forbidden. I mean, we weren't supposed to go to the dark side of the moon. And then this is where, there was that video of a guy who used to work for an imaging company, and he was called in by the NSA back in the mid '60s, to look at maps of the moon that they had taken, because he was a cartographer, right? And then he said that he saw all this alien bases, all kinds of stuff like that, and then he said the agent he was talking to was joking, like, you wouldn't believe this stuff. You should see some of the other stuff we have, and he's like, by the way, don't tell anybody. This guy got so scared that he went and hired himself a lawyer.
I know who you're talking about. Yeah, he was an Air Force corporal, and he was brought into Washington D.C., where they were bringing in the live data feeds from the orbiter going around the moon.
Yeah,
while they were taking pictures of the moon to go up there with NASA. It's like just right before, either right before or right after.
He was scared because he didn't think
he was scared. And that man died very, very suddenly and in a very, very weird capacity.
He did. At least he got to tell a story. But
at least he got to tell a story. But yeah, he was called in to fix a machine that was glitching up.
Right. The machine had broke.
Yeah, he was a technician to fix it, and while he was trying to fix it, this other corporal, the same rank as him, started showing him these pictures. Like, here, look at this stuff. He's like, no, don't show me that.
He's like, I don't want to see it.
Wow. So, Michael, let me ask you this question: why was going on the dark side of the moon bad? You weren't allowed.
That was a place to stay away from, because that's where the alien bases are, and then they're firmly in control. If you look at the moon like a satellite, and then they have bases there or bases under in the ocean surface, way down where we can't get. I mean, they've already detected sounds down there, mechanical noises of like machinery, and you hear doors opening and close, and then a lot of them try to say, oh no, it's a whale. It wasn't a whale. I've heard these. They're on YouTube. Yeah, I've heard all these recordings. They're machinery. It's machinery. Opening, closing, like they ain't no whale. But you got to go where humans can't get to you. The South Pole, right? That's a great place, because we have just little teams, even though every world leader goes there, and they visit, they disappear off and into nowhere and then come back. So that's where Admiral Byrd in his famed diaries said that he ran into the master who had a plan or whatever, and reported that to DC, Operation High Jump, where his planes were destroyed.
If you're not careful, the next war will be against people who can fly from pole to pole within hours.
Discs, he said that the biggest threat would be discs. And then, ships were destroyed, airplanes destroyed, things like that. Chile and Argentina were taking in a lot of the injured troops, so they were able to tell their story to the local media there at the time. So that's a little corroboration of fact, because a lot of people say, oh, birds' diary wasn't real and whatever. But he was the guy. He was the adventurer. He was Indiana Jones. He was the guy who was the first guy to circumnavigate the Earth in a plane. There was a woman with him, so both of them went around the world.
He's the first guy to fly around both poles, north and south.
Right. So, I mean, he was the adventurer. He was the one who was out there always pushing harder, to go in. And he said they went down under the South Pole. There was all greenery and whatever.
Lush green forest, I believe he said, almost the exact words.
Yep. And then that society there were the ones who were in charge, basically. And he called them the master. And the master was upset that we were messing with nukes. It was a thing.
Yes.
But, I mean, all those the same discs from hundreds of years earlier from Germany and Switzerland that, I mean, like, if you start putting all the facts together, if you can call them facts, as a private investigator, I have to be right. No matter what I say, no matter what I do in a situation, I have to be 100% right. I can never assume. I have to work on evidence. And evidence can be hearsay. Evidence can be, as long as it's testimony. It's not as worthy as some stuff, but hey, it does work.
I mean, hearsay evidence has to be. I mean, it has to be in a court-like situation, and what the person has to say has to be weighed heavily by a jury. And if the jury believes them, yeah, okay. But that being said, with the amount of hearsay evidence, just hearsay evidence of the UFOs would be enough in almost any sane criminal court in this and other societies to get a dead-on conviction.
I think we can't ignore how large the universe is and how old it is, as for the universe, and then that we're not the only creatures, judging from all the creatures we have on this planet.
I think that it's impossible.
Right.
It is physically, mathematically impossible that this planet is the only planet that has living beings like us on it. It's impossible, mathematically.
Interesting. Hey, dudes, we got about
We got about
2
10
minutes.
Huh?
No.
2 minutes?
Well, no, Michelle and Amelia come on at 10 after 9.
Yeah, so we do have a few minutes. We got to be out by not 10 after. So let me explain the mathematics of this. You've heard of the Drake equation. Drake equation presumes, it's a large, complicated hybrid math problem. We've got letters and numbers, and it just I can't understand it. Some of the equation has, you have to speculate, like, say, how many planets can sustain life, how many of those planets that can sustain life can sustain an intelligent life. How do you guess that kind of number? It takes in way too many variables.
Algebra. That's algebra right there.
It's some kind of weird algebra. But again, it takes in. You have to assume a whole bunch of numbers. You just plug in whatever numbers you want. It doesn't make any sense. I say we use just our solar system. And again, in our solar system, there's over 300 planet-sized objects. Over 300. We have our planet is one that we know has life. 99.9% of all scientists say that Venus is a living planet, that there's carbon-based life forms on Venus. So that's two planets that live in this solar system. We're pretty sure Mars, even though Shawn doesn't believe Mars exists, we're pretty sure Mars had life and used to have.
You know what?
But
my history teacher used to love talking about this, and
we're going to call that 50%. So that's now.
Let me tell you real quick what Mr. Whalen would say. He would say, "How far is space?" And people would say, "Well, I don't know. Give an answer." I say, he's like, "Okay, well, look at this. Let's say you hit the wall. Let's say you go out there, way out there, and you hit the wall." He's like, "Well, what's on the other side?" You know what I mean? Like, I mean, it's infinite. And in the word infinite, I don't think a lot of people can wrap their, Carl Sagan with his little blue dot.
We can't wrap our heads around anything
little
over
blue dot. And we are a little blue dot. A little blue dot of a lot of stories, a lot of emotion, a lot of history. Some of it's not bad. Some of it isn't so bad. But what we are is what we are. I mean, but think about the whole universe. I mean, we're kind of insignificant if you think about that.
We're completely insignificant.
Exactly, dude. All right. Last word, Michael.
Watch my show, man, after the chat every Saturday around 10 p.m. because we kind of roll over on the chat, you know.
Yeah.
So after the chat, just put it that way. Michael Angley live, and then this show is going to be Do You Matter? Do You Matter? And then also You Are Not Alone. So that's going to be my two things going to be on the show.
Okay, great. I am really looking forward. I'm proud of you, man. I'm glad you got your show. I'm
fired up. I'm happy about it. I appreciate it all too.
Yeah, Jay,
Michelle and Joe. I appreciate Michelle and Joe more than they'll ever know.
All right, I know what you mean, dude. So
and Amelia, beautiful Amelia, who still doesn't talk to me, but she's going to at some point, man. I've seen it in my visions. That she reaches out to me. I've seen it in my vision.
How about you, Jay?
Well, yeah, definitely. We'll be back. I think my first 3 nights of the year for the Church of Mavis start this Friday, so I'll be on the Church of Mavis 8 to 10, and then news on the flip side till 1 or 2 in the morning. That'll be my busy day, 5:30 a.m. until 2 o'clock the next day.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah, that's my busy day. I mean, I get up at 5:30, I go to work 10 hours, and I come home and I get like an hour break, and then I have 5 hours on the radio. So
I need my beauty sleep, and that's kind of screwy for me, and I feel bad because I screw you guys over on Friday night on News on the Flip Side because I got to get up at 4:30 in the morning on Saturday.
Yeah, no, we don't hold you against that.
You gotta be rested up for work, dude. I mean, especially what you do, you might cut your hand off or something, man. You work with some sharp instruments going on.
Oh yes, too many sharp instruments. Mm-hmm. But listen, everybody, thank you for popping in. I'm sure Joe will be here next week. He's busy flying somewhere. So
that storm's going on right now down there, Mississippi.
Hey, Carla, good evening, hon. We're about to close up shop, sweetheart. But thank you for popping in. Yeah, Carla, yeah. That's my very good friend of mine. But listen, everybody, I am on Sunday nights and Tuesday nights, 8:10, 9:10 p.m. on UPRN Talk Radio, 105.3, 107.7. And don't forget, right after this show, the next show up is The Outer Realm. So if you're not doing nothing, hang around and listen to The Outer Realm and hang out. And on that note, everybody, good night, and we will see you Friday night.
Yep.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Bon